You know, the other day, my roommate Jesse ordered DoorDash. He had ordered 2 bean burritos from Taco Bell. What was left at the door was a giant bag from Wingstop. Apparently someone named Tessa, Tessa, had ordered Wingstop. And Jesse, Jesse, if you're squinting, it can kind of look similar with bad handwriting between Tessa and Jesse. And the driver had done one of those double orders where you pick up 2 different orders, drop them off to 2 different places. Well, Jesse went, grabbed the food. It had been dropped off, so it's not like he could say anything to the driver. And he was like, well, I don't really want this, so I guess I'll order again. In the meantime, do y'all want this? And so he gave it to us, and it was a large order of fries and 3 large orders of wings. And somehow this person ordered this much Wingstop, 3 large orders of boneless wings, and not one of them was the actual best flavor to put for wings, which of course is honey barbecue. That's just undisputed fucking fact. But no, this one was like a lemon pepper, and another one was buffalo, and the third one was damn near sweet. It tasted like it was sugar encrusted. And the fries were kind of shit too, but that's just Wingstop. It's just kind of disappointing, you know? I mean, it's free food. You can say no to free food, but like, how do you get that much Wingstop and get not the good flavors? I don't get that one. Anyway, welcome back to Repeat. My name is VivianJade, the trained unprofessional, and it has been a minute since we played this game last. The first visual novel on this channel, which explains, you know, the name John that we use for the main character is after John Adams, the 2nd president. That's the naming scheme. Of course, George was our name in Amorous, but that's not a visual novel. It's garbage. So, yeah, this started just before I started extracurricular activities, and it's been a long time. But just like we just did for extracurricular activities, there is an ending to a route that has been released. I have no idea which route is which in this. I think this might be Phillips. This is definitely Sissel. Sissel is the route that just finished. And of course it's fucked. We're gonna have to do it all over again. Chapter select. Character routes. Okay, so this is new. Oh, I don't know which route we were doing. Oh no. Christ, that picture is just burned into my memory. I don't miss seeing that creepy motherfucker. Though the update in the art does make it more menacing and less off-putting. Okay, never fucking mind. Jesus, goddamn. I'm really glad that Shirokoi made Repeat, and I will always have Repeat as a positive memory in my mind. But seeing this kind of thing in this 4x3 format, the backgrounds being like this and all that, and the default ass fucking text box, it reminds me of what visual novels used to be like in the early 2010s. And yeah, shit's changed, bro. It felt a bit sacrilegious to dry an old sentimental photo with a pair of boxer briefs, but at least it remained in one piece. Sissel was hiding behind a tree with his face buried in his hands while I struggled to put my pants back on. Come on, man. It's not like you never seen me in the nude before. It's only been a day. I'm processing a lot of things right now, okay? I'll think of this as exposure therapy. Let my pants dip lower on my hips with a suggestive wink. Sissel shot me a red-faced glare. You're a fucking twat. There we go. Bringing back the early days catchphrase. He said that every other fucking line. Anyway, what's so important about this old photograph anyway? Carefully waved the photo to air it out. Air out the last bits of moisture before handing it to Sissel. He froze. Picture time. There's a lot to look at here for a second. Like, there's obviously young Hershel off to the right. And then there's what appears to be Owen's dad in the center. Then you get, I think, Hershel's sister in between them. Off to the far left, I think one of those is Morse. Other one I don't know. Like the guy in the leather jacket. And in the back you've got what appears to be someone related to Ginny or John. I don't what okay, let's look into this. It's your mother and Hershel and their friends. Back in there where they're studying at Granny Academy. It's a little convenient everyone happens to generationally know each other. Mrs. Corliss figured you should have it. Sissel quietly thumbed over Celia Bradley's image, a mix of bittersweet emotion swimming across his face. His mother's playful expression smiled back at him, as though she was saying hello. So, this is what Mom looked like. I guess the messy hair runs in the family. Sissel's smile faded somewhat as he gazed toward the corner of the photo. That's my uncle, Hershel. The word uncle slipped from his lips like a foreign concept. His brow furrowed. Are we going to address all the other people in that photo? Kind of fucking important. Anyway, I guess this was before he stole all of Mom's money to attend the national culinary competition. Simpler times. I hung an arm around his shoulders and pulled him into a close side hug. Sissel just sighed and leaned into me tiredly, his gaze still fixed on Hershel's image. How are you holding up? I'm fine. It's just everyone looks so happy here. I just can't imagine why Boss would want to ruin it all for a fucking competition. The photo crinkled under his grip. Sissel shoved it back into my hands with a huff. You hold on to it for me. I'd probably end up staring holes into it. I smiled and leaned back against Sissel's warmth. Hey, sis? Earlier, you mentioned that you wanted to know more about Hershel and your mom, and you wanted to understand Hershel better. Sissel snorted. Easier said than done. I want to talk to him about it, but that twat hasn't answered any of my calls or texts. That must run in the family, too. Sissel spluttered and scratched his head sheepishly. Are you still mad that I didn't call you back earlier today? I just needed some space and all. And okay, I get it. I'm being a bit of a hypocrite. I'll forgive you if you text me a nude later. And also start calling me a cute pet name. Excuse me? That's what'll get your forgiveness? I nodded sagely. I'm a very merciful boyfriend. You're welcome. You fucking twat. Anyway, where was I? Oh, right. I frowned. How the hell was I going to explain this? Hey, Sissel, you trust me, right? Of course. You've had my back throughout this whole mess. I've got complete faith in you. He shot me a reassuring smile. My chest fluttered and my cheeks felt a little warm. Cleared my throat and sharply and nodded. I think I have a way of helping you understand Hershel better and see things from his perspective. But, it's gonna take some explaining, so bear with me. Here we go. Here we go. I slowly described to Sissel my ability to draw out memories from objects using my camera. I recalled the way I took a photograph of Philip's little Jade coin, and the horrific events of his past flashed in my mind. I kept the details vague for Philip's sake. The memory of what I saw sent a nauseating wave of bile crawling up my throat. I probably sounded like a complete nutter. Has that lingo made it away? It's crossed a pond to Boston? But Sissel seemed to be taking it well. Yeah, that doesn't look like he's taking it well. Are you high right now? What, no, just trust me on this. I swear on my life it's true. Sissel looked doubtful, but thankfully decided to humor me. Right, and how is this supposed to help me understand Hershel? We have this photograph of his younger days with your mom. I'm sure I'll be able to glean at least a little bit of history from him. Sissel squinted like he was trying to understand the ravings of a madman. It was a bit rude, if you ask me. It was common boyfriend etiquette to agree with them on all things, even if said boyfriend sounded like he lost his marbles. Sissel let out a sigh and rubbed his temples. All right, well, let's try this weird memory thing of yours. Yes, thank you for trusting me. As long as you're not going to make me smoke something weird, Mrs. Corley's kill me. It's got nothing to do with... Never mind. Just give me your hand. This looked a bit suspicious, but hesitantly did as I asked. His cheeks flushed a little when I reached out and held his hand firmly. With my other hand, I carefully laid the old photograph out on the grass and readied my camera. Brace yourself, this might get a bit nauseating. What's that supposed to mean? Oh! Magic, magic. The camera shutter snapped. Suddenly, the world around me shattered into shards of nothing. Aw, shit. Here we go again. Something felt different this time around. The sky cracked and shattered into a cascade of shimmering specks of light. Was falling gently into the cold embrace of night. Ooh! The ground rippled like pale water as I landed lightly on my feet. From above, the cold night sky stretched out as far as the eye could see. Ooh, that looks like it's breaking the fucking mold of the promise. Shimmering against the black were tiny specks of what appeared to be stars. But upon closer inspection, revealed themselves to be tiny pieces of glass. Thank you. Below, a vast horizon of thread and familiar pale clockwork glowed softly underfoot. What is this place? This didn't happen last time. Echo's voice suddenly rumbled from deep within my chest. Welcome to the memory well. This is your world. What does that mean? If the clockwork realm is Hallie and her wisher's domain... if the clockwork realm is Hallie and her wisher's domain, then the memory well is ours. As much as I'd hate to admit it... You would hate to admit it, or you just hate to admit it? As wishes, we are rather similar in nature. Time and memory, mortality and connection. Here, you'll find the little pieces of time that you seek. I stared down at my feet and watched the faint reflection of the clockwork realm ticking mechanically through the rippling water. Everything here felt trippy, to say the least. John, are you there? Sissel, where are you? Again. I glanced around nervously. Sissel was nowhere to be seen, but his voice felt close, as though he was right beside me. I'm right here, but kinda not here. Feels like I'm in a dream. His voice was thick with disbelief and awe as he took in our surroundings. I guess you weren't lying about that old camera thing. Or maybe this one big acid trip I'm not even gonna try to work out the logic of this mess. Yeah, I kind of gave up on figuring out how this whole thing works too. I could hear Sissel grumble under his breath. Well, I did promise to go through with this weird plan of yours. Now what? Out of the corner of my eye, a piece of glass shimmered with a faint yellow light, and I instantly knew that it was one of Sissel's memories. Wading through the water, I leaned forward to examine the shard closely. A thin yellow thread looped around the glass before stretching off into the horizon, entangling with various other threads in its long path. A frayed lavender thread dangled weakly and appeared dangerously thin. Ginny? Beyond it, a pair of orange and red threads danced around each other, maybe Owen and Philip. I grinned and gently ran my fingers across the faint blue thread, wrapped tightly around Sissel's pale yellow thread. So this is ours. I paused. Coiled tightly around the pale yellow thread was a ragged string of gray lying in the tangled mess. It trailed off into the distance on its own, as though determined to distance itself from the others. I grabbed at it and followed the thin thread into the dark, inky horizon. Sis, I think I found what we're looking for. Brace yourself. All right, I'll follow your lead. I nodded. Taking a deep breath, I gave the ragged gray thread a firm tug. Dun 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 dun. The world suddenly went white. I was falling once again. A thick, acrid smell filled the air. Whispers and splitting pain suddenly filled my head. What was happening? Where? Dots? I heard that people often reminisce about their childhood as a foggy, nostalgic memory. Vague details of growing up with family, celebrating birthdays with candlelit cakes, a warm feeling of a happier time. Unfortunately, I couldn't say the same for myself. My childhood memories were as sharp as the broken glass bottles that constantly littered the dirty floor of our dingy home. I think this is Hershel talking, but I'll just keep talking to myself for a second. A foul chemical odor permeated from the basement and penetrated the damp air of every room, a poorly hidden lab for Mom and Dad's more illegal operations. And the shouting. Always shouting. There was never a quiet moment in the memories of my youth. Mom and Dad were always at each other's throats over one thing or another. Sometimes it was about how they were handling their business, shady clients, untrustworthy dealers. Other times they just grasped at excuses to be angry with each other. Peace was a stranger in this household. I spent most of my childhood hiding in this awful house. It was safer to pretend I didn't exist and draw as little attention as possible. Our parents' shouting was horrible, but at least it was usually directed between the two of them. It was worse when it was directed towards me. Yep. Oh, God. Jesus Christ. A sharp pain. My eyes stung with tears, lungs burning with rasping sobs as I clutched at the warm, wet gash across my head. I didn't remember much afterwards except for one burning memory. Boom. Older sister here to protect you. Celia stood over my tiny, crying body, arms spread protectively like a shield that no child should be forced to become. My sister was always there, standing between our parents' rage and my useless self. She stood tall, always there to protect me. After our parents took their fury elsewhere, I could remember Celia's hushed voice as she gently cleaned my gashed head with a warm towel. Her low voice whispered that everything will be all right. We'll make it through this. Someday we'll run away together, far away from this horrible place. Everything will be better. I always believed her. I knew she could have left a long time ago. The only thing that held her back was me. She could have fled this damn family and those awful house years ago if I wasn't around. Years of beatings, years of living in this toxic hellhole, all for my sake. I wasn't worth this. Celia could have left and made a great life for herself out in the world. She was hardworking, clever, and far too kind for her own good. I was too much of a sobbing and worthless mess to join her. And so she stayed. My valiant and kind sister, shackled here by her worthless waste of a brother. In hindsight, I guess the result was inevitable. But it didn't make it any less devastating. Celia left. My valiant shield was gone, left without a word in a night. Suddenly, there was nothing to stand between me and the horrors of this house. The shouting worsened, and the beatings grew more frequent. Mom and Dad clearly weren't happy that she left. I wasn't sure how to feel. Part of me was overjoyed that you managed to escape. I daydreamed about the wonderful things you must have been up to. Maybe you were chasing your dream of becoming a pastry chef like you were always rambling about. Or maybe you were just living an ordinary, mundane life. Anything was good. Anywhere was better than here. Another part of me was devastated. Selfish, I know. I already knew I was worthless, that staying here would only ruin us both. You were a kid like me, barely a few years older. It wasn't your job to protect me. But still, dread and betrayal I felt was crippling. You didn't even say goodbye before you left me in this hellhole. That stung more than I could bear. The world slowly descended into a numb and cold daze. Days slipped by without my notice. Time slowly grew into a muddled and meaningless crawl. I wasn't sure what would happen from here, but I had given up on myself. I expected that you had done the same. Then came that night. It began like any other night. I had crawled into bed and closed my eyes, waiting for the usual shouting to cease as my parents fell into an alcohol-soaked slumber. Merciful silence. Late nights were the only time that any semblance of peace ever graced this house. The usual acrid smell from the basement felt especially strong tonight, but I was grateful for the silence. I savored it as best I could, and as I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping for sleep to pull me away, suddenly the old floorboards creaked, then a gentle tap on my shoulder. I bolted up to see your face crouched at my bedside, a finger to your lips. Shh, sis, you came back. She smiled and nodded silently. Emotion welled up inside my chest, and I let out a shaky laugh. Tears threatened to blur my vision as I threw myself into her arms. Shh, everything's okay now. Shh, I'm here. She gently rubbed my back as I sobbed into her shoulder, too scared to let go. Why was she here? Why risk it? I thought Cecilia lightly traced the raw scar across my head, her expression darkening. Come on, Hersh. We're leaving. Leaving? She nodded firmly. I made some friends while I was away. And some money. We can build a life outside this horrible place. I won't let you spend another night in this damn house. Not over my dead body. Not over my dead body? That's not how that would be used. Anyway, let's go. Quietly. I grasped her hand tightly and followed her outside without a second thought. Yeah, that looks like a meth house. We ran breathlessly into the woods, hand in hand. An awful house slowly retreated into the thickets of the trees. kept sneaking glances back toward the only home I had known. So this was it. We were finally free from this place. You don't think Mom and Dad will chase after us, do you? Celia suddenly slowed to a halt, her gaze following mine as she stared at the house with a cold, hard glare. I had never seen her look so frigid before. Sis, is everything okay? I'm fine. Her eyes softened as she gripped my hand tightly. Hersh, I'm sorry I left you for so long. But I'm here now. We're finally escaping this horrible place just like I promised we would. Kaboom, motherfucker! A low rumble shook the air. I glanced back at the house with shock. The dim light flickering behind the dirty basement window suddenly exploded with intensity. The earth grew, the earth shook with a groan as fire erupted from every door and window. Glass shattered across the dead vegetation. Smoke thickened the frigid night air. I watched in horror as flames swallowed up that awful place before our very eyes. I wasn't sure how to feel at that moment. Sadness, maybe, or in an awful way, relief. The place that had caused us so much pain was burned away till nothing was left but dancing embers in the night sky. Nice. Nice. Look at her. She's like, you motherfucker. Like, nice. See, they gripped my hand tightly. Her eyes narrowed into cold, hard, harsh slits. Our parents will never hurt you again. We're finally free. Dun 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 dun. Threads of white unraveled. Our eyes fluttered open and I awoke back under the starlit sky of the memory well. So that was Hershel's memory. I couldn't see Sissel, but I could feel his racing heartbeat pounding rapidly alongside my own. Are you doing okay there, sis? Sissel was silent for a while as he tried to process everything. That was... this memory thing... everything we saw was real? Yeah. Oh. Sissel paused. Boss mentioned in the past that his family life was a bit shit, but I never realized it was this bad. Just figured he was complaining to make me feel better. It was so awful that my mom decided to burn down the family home. Mrs. Corley's rambled on and on about how wonderful and kind she was, but I guess anyone would develop a bit of ruthlessness with that kind of upbringing. Was that the memory you were looking for? Kinda. It's nice to know that Mom loved and cared for him so much, but somehow it just pisses me off even more. Like, if Celia was so good to him, why did he steal her money just to compete in that damn competition? There has to be more to this, right? Do you think you can show me more memories? I rubbed my forehead tiredly. A small nauseating headache was starting to peck at my skull. Staying this place for prolonged periods of time probably wasn't the best idea, but I think I had it in me to unravel one more memory. I reached out and followed Hershel's thread deeper into the sea of night. There was a pale, cream-colored thread entangled with his as we ventured further. Then abruptly, their cream-colored thread was cut. Its frayed, severed end broke off from Hershel's thread, then laid alone on the cold water below. I gulped and gently grasped Hershel's thread again. This must be the place. Bracing myself, I gave the strand a firm tug. Shattered glass! And here we go again. Again. You're During my time in school, I remembered hearing Mrs. Corliss loudly brag to all her colleagues about how talented Celia was. Her hard-working nature and relentless ambition was truly admirable. She was no genius, but she managed to keep her grades up through sheer stubbornness. And most of all, her talents as a pastry chef were extraordinary. As the years passed, her accomplishments only grew. I tried my best to follow in her footsteps as her loyal little sous chef, but my sister's talent was far beyond my reach. Oh, look at them. That's fun. I want to claim that I contributed at least a little bit as her assistant, but in all honesty, her victory was truly her own. No one was surprised when Celia won the National Culinary Championships in spectacular fashion. Nor was anyone surprised when selfless Celia announced in interviews that she intended to She intended to use the cash prize to fund her little brother's education. My sister did so much for me, her love unconditional. But there was a small part of me that resented how little I compared to her, how little my efforts mattered. I like to think I was a chef of no small talent, but I was forever known as the great Celia Bradley's talented little brother. I didn't hate it entirely. Having Cecilia's sister was a point of pride for me. But there was one aching fear gnawing inside me, one singular loathing sensation. I hated how I would never be able to repay her for everything she's done. Despite all my efforts to help her in return, Cecilia didn't need me. She would have flourished even more if her precious little brother wasn't there to weigh her down. I was just a burden at this point, another mouth to feed. Every time she helped me, comforted me, supported me, I felt the loathing for my own helplessness grow stronger. Maybe she should have left me there, back at that awful house. She would have been better off. But part of me remembered that suffocating dread I felt when I was left behind. And that thought steeled me, forced me to face forward. I was going to become someone who was worth all this trouble. I would repay her for her kindness if it was the last thing I ever did. I would become someone worthy of being Cecilia. Sometimes I see Celia, sometimes I see Cecilia. Now I'm seeing Seclia, Keklia, Bradley's younger brother. I don't know how often I'm fucking up this name, or if it's inconsistent spelling, or if I don't know what the fuck's happening. Anyway. And so, a few years down the line, a plan began to form in my head. Although we were free from our parents' grasp, life had not been kind to us. Our parents somehow continued to haunt us beyond the grave in the form of their debt collectors. I mean, it depends on the legality of these debts. If it was underhanded, then yeah. Government debts can just sort of fuck off, I guess, but they were constantly knocking at our door and demanding payment at gunpoint. That would be underhanded, then, wouldn't it? Then shit! There was no reasoning with them. We had burned through most of the prize money from Cecilia's... Yeah, it's Cecilia. There we go. So... so that when it was Seclia before, that was a typo. We burned through most of the prize money at this point, and the situation was growing dire. Cecilia even tried to marry a rich fellow from the next city over. For her efforts, she was left alone with a fatherless child. And bless her heart, she swore to wait a minute. Wait Whoa. If, a rich man from the next town over, we saw in the picture her sort of dangling off of what appeared to be someone from Owen's family. Ugh, are we gonna get a fucking thing where it's like Owen and Sissel are like half siblings? That would make a lot of things uncomfortable. So I'm going to assume that that's not what's going on here. We're just going to move on. And bless her heart, she swore to raise him as best she could. I die before I force another child to grow up like I did, she said. I tried to help as best I could, pulling out of school and working extra hours to support her and my new nephew. But it was not enough. Our debt collectors grew more violent, their demands more absurd. It was all we could do to fend them off. And so I decided to move forward with my plan. We just needed one more victory. Cecilia could not compete in the National Culinary Championships again, but I could. I had attended the preliminaries and swept through the competition with ease. If I made it to the Nationals and won, use the money to pay off the rest of our debts. We'd be free from the final lingering grasp of our parents' cruelty. And I would finally be able to repay my sister for all that she had done for me. There was only one small problem. I couldn't afford the trip across the country to the Nationals. If I only had the chance to compete, I could fix everything. If only I had the chance. I didn't know what possessed me to steal money from my sister for the trip. Maybe it was because I knew Cecilia would forgive me. She was always that kind of person. Or maybe it was because I really believed I could single-handedly solve all of our problems, or worse yet, maybe I did it solely because I wanted a chance to finally bask in the spotlight. Finally free from my sister's looming shadow. Whatever the case, I had won. Holding that golden cup in my hands, I felt pride and contentment in myself for the first time in my life. Finally, I had done something worth a damn. If only I knew what it would cost. I felt the world drop from under me when I arrived home. The house was in ruins, and my sister was nowhere to be found. I remember tearing through the house from top to bottom, searching for any sign of my sister, of my family. But they were gone. I was once again left alone. Except this time, it was my own fault. She really should have just left me back there in that awful house. The next 2 years passed in a solemn blur. Every day was a daze. I took my winnings and opened up a small cafe downtown, just like you had always dreamed of doing. I went through the motions of running the place, but everything felt empty. I wasn't sure why I even bothered. You should be here, not your miserable excuse of a brother. I couldn't even bear to look at that miserable golden cup and end up tossing it into a closet to rust. Crushing guilt weighed over me, not once ceasing for a single moment. But some days I wondered why I even bothered waking up. A small part of my mind told me that this was what you would have wanted for me to keep moving forward. Another part of me knew that if I ended things, I might see you again. The mere thought of it, the sheer guilt, it terrified me. So I kept pushing forward, living through the days like an empty, cowardly husk. But everything changed when I found him. On that rainy day, I found him digging through the garbage can behind the cafe. At first, I thought it was just another scavenging raccoon and almost clocked him over the head with my umbrella. Whoa, hold up. What's the big idea? That was a kid's voice. At least it should have been if I was doing it right. I withdrew my makeshift bludgeoning weapon and gingerly tapped the side of the garbage bin. I imagine there have been a few people who have been wondering where the hell the Hershel accent has been this whole time. And I do believe there was a part in some previous episodes where either it was said in the game or I said it that the accent was sort of put on. It was a fake accent for Hershel specifically, like he was faking the accent. So it would make sense that his narrative voice wouldn't have it. Especially his kid voice wouldn't have it. In my mind, it makes sense that he would have adopted the accent either when he was a young adult just before the incident with his sister or afterward as a way of sort of distancing from reality. I don't know. But we're definitely within that time period now, so... The hell are you doing in my trash? Get out of there, kid. It ain't sanitary. Oh, fuck off, you twat. It's not like you're gonna use any of this stuff anyway. There he is. Now, I could have sworn that they met when Sissel was on a street corner. Like, then he pulled up in his car and found him. Maybe this isn't when he gets picked up. Maybe this is just when he first finds that he still is alive. I don't know. I froze and stared. Two tiny ears perked up from behind the bin and a pair of familiar eyes stared back. It was like seeing a ghost. In that moment, in that cold, uncaring rain, I just knew that with all the certainty in the world that I had found him. Sis? The fuck? Do I know you? Wow. You should have seen the little guy. He was so much like you. Brash, stubborn, and took no nonsense, but there was that same look in his eye. It was the look of a child who was forced to grow up too fast. Well, that wouldn't do. I'd die before I forced another child to grow up like you did. I took a step forward, and the boy already looked like he was ready to bolt. I held my umbrella over his head and forced a tired but friendly smile across my face. That was the first time I smiled in a long while. It probably looked awful. Apparently, the boy agreed. He tried to scurry out of the garbage, but only managed to tumble out and fall on his face. I plucked him off the cold, wet ground before he could make a break for it. That's funny. Hey, hands off! What are you in such a big hurry for? The kid was shivering against the rain. His clothes were oversized for his thin body and ripped at unsightly places. It looked like he'd seen better days. Crossed his arms and shot me a stubborn glare. It's been pretty average, to be honest. Getting almost clobbered while I look for lunch is a bit new, though. Lunch? Ain't nothing in this bin besides used napkins and stale baguettes. Well, I don't have much to choose from now, do I? I stared at him for a moment. You got a home, kid? Or at least someone you can call? Fucking Hershel is huge, by the way. I know that, like, Shiro's style in these games pretty much made everyone unnaturally ripped, but, like, goddamn. Also, you can tell he's right-handed, considering one arm is way bigger than the other. That's a joke. The boy glared up at me as though I was the peak of stupidity. Do I look like I'd be digging through garbage for food if I had parents or a home? I swear to God, if you call child services, I'm gonna... Hey, what are you doing? Just put you on the shoulder. I hoisted the kid over my shoulder and began making my way toward the cafe. Weighed very little, uncomfortably so. First things first, let's get you out of the rain. You hungry?
What kind of question is that?
I'll take that as a yes. A nice omelet and some French toast should warm you up. The boy was quiet for a while.
You know, most grown-ups tend to throw me out when they find me digging through their trash.
What kind of grown-ups have you been running into? I ain't leaving a starving kid out in the rain. There's a futon and shower upstairs. You can stay as long as you need. He suddenly grimaced and scowled, ears drooping in almost shame.
I don't need your fucking charity. Been mooching off my friends too much already. I don't want to turn into a damn leech.
His stomach betrayed him with a sharp gurgle. Threw my head back in a laugh. You can argue all you want after you're fed. At this point, the kid had stopped thrashing around in my grip, but continued to eye me warily.
I can get on fine on my own, you know. Been doing that since forever.
That doesn't make it right.
I sighed. He sounded so much like you. Same stubborn self-sufficiency.
All right. How's this? You looking for a job, kid? I've been wanting to help her around the cafe lately. I can teach you a thing or two about cooking and baking while you're at it.
I don't know the first thing about food.
That's fine. You can learn. And if you don't like it, we can find something else for you to do. I ain't leaving you out on the streets, though, no matter how much you complain. Wouldn't be able to live with myself if I did that to a kid. The boy kept staring at me as though not quite believing what I was saying.
You're a weird fucking guy.
I laughed again, a genuine smile spread across my face. I've been called worse.
It's Sissel.
Hmm?
You asked me for my name earlier. It's Sissel.
Literally, the first thing you said was calling him Sis, but anyway. I grinned, my chest suddenly feeling lighter than it had been in years. Sissel? Oh, that's a fine name. I feel like I should clarify, even though it kind of breaks the mood of the moment. The whole thing about Hershel putting on a fake accent is that the accent would be bad. That's why it's this weird blend of Scottish, Jamaican, and shit. It's not my best interpretation of either of those accents. It's the voice he's got. It's the voice he puts on, anyway. Welcome to my cafe, sis. On that merciful day, I swore to hell and back that I would not take this second chance for granted. I was good for nothing, less than worthless, but I refuse to let you down again. Your son will grow up with all the love and support I have to give. I swear it upon my life. And since that day, this promise was the only thing that kept me moving forward. It's the only thing that made my life worth living. Oh, this is going to be a big reaction from Sissel. Holy cannoli. My consciousness fluttered back into focus under that shimmering night sky. I blinked and rubbed my eyes, my mind still trying to process what I just saw. So, that was Hershel's memory. Sissel's presence hovered beside my own. I could feel his own storm of conflicted emotions roiling against my chest. We sat silently for a while, neither of us uttering a word. It felt like an eternity before we both managed to catch our breaths, and Sissel finally spoke.
I think I've seen enough. I'd like to wake up now.
Right. Sounds good. I'll see you back at Bradley Lake then.
Yeah.
I heard Sissel mutter something under his breath. Soon I felt his presence fade as his consciousness fluttered outside of the memory wall's reach. I should probably get going too. Staying here for so long was starting to take its toll. Exhaustion weighed over my entire being like an unrelenting fog. As I felt my body waking up and the memory well fading from view, something caught my eye. If I stared hard enough, I could see a small familiar figure sitting beneath the pale waters below. It was hardly visible beneath the misty glow of the clockwork realm. The frail figure smiled and waved. I thought it was trying to say something, but I couldn't catch a single word before the world faded from view. Jesus, mysterious. My eyes snapped open. It's nighttime now. Imagine people just jogging by and they just see like two people passed out next to a photo in the grass for hours. Like, Jesus. Sissel and I were lying on the grass at the edge of Bradley Lake. Looked like we were passed out for a long while. The sky was already dark and our clothes were dry from our soak in the lake. Sissel sat up and stared off into the distance in a daze. I'm not even gonna ask what the fuck just happened. Let out a chuckle and scratched my head awkwardly. I don't think I could explain it even if you did. Did it help, though? Seeing things from Hershel's perspective? Everything that we saw. Is it all real? Probably. Camera thing, he's never lied to me before. Sissel felt silent again, glaring at the grass at his feet. Then he stood up and began to briskly walk away. Sissel? Hey, where you going? I rushed after him as he stomped down the forest trail leading out of Bradley Woods. He's gonna go have a conversation. It's clearly a blue sky up there, but it's dark out, so it's dim. Sissel had marched all the way to the front of Hershel's cafe without uttering a word. I panted as I struggled to keep up with him. Sissel, what are you up to? He continued to say nothing as he struggled with the cafe's front door. Locked. The lights are off and everything. Looks like Hershel closed the place down, for today at least. Sissel grunted. He dug a spare key out of his ragged shorts and shoved it into the keyhole. Here we are again. The front door swung open to reveal a dark and empty cafe. All the chairs were propped up on the tables, and the pastry displays were empty and unused. Boss? Sissel's voice echoed through the dining area with no response. He let out a huff and stomped into the kitchen. Hershel was nowhere to be found. Dumbass. The regulars probably weren't happy to see the place closed today. Let out a sigh and slumped onto a nearby chair. Is everything okay? Sissel rubbed his temples with a frown. Yeah, kinda. I don't know. The things we saw, it's all stuck in my head. He let his head fall backwards as he stared up at the ceiling. I'm still mad at him. I wish he'd told me all this sooner. Would have saved me years of thinking I was an unwanted child. But I get it. Sissel had a bitter laugh and nudged his head towards a part of the ceiling. I followed his gaze. A large portion of the ceiling and walls looked newer. There was a fresher coat of paint over areas that were obviously repaired in the past. You remember that story I told you last night over dinner? Yeah, I think so. You mentioned trying to surprise Hershel by baking him a cake for his birthday, but you were tired and fell asleep with the oven on. Yep. And ended up burning down half the cafe. I just wanted to do something nice to repay him for all the good he's done for me. Instead, I just managed to make everything worse. Thinking about it, I probably drove him deeper into debt with those shady guys from this morning.
And yet, Hershel still kept me around. He said it wasn't my fault and kept supporting me all the same. Despite the deep furrow in his brow, a small smile began to spread across Sissel's face. I've always felt kind of worthless. Grew up feeling like an absolute charity case, you know? Every time teacher Hershel helped me with something, I just felt awful. Like I didn't deserve any of it. The reason why I worked so hard is because I wanted to stand up on my own 2 feet and pay them back for their kindness someday. I guess boss kind of felt the same way. So I get it. I'm still angry. Hershel really fucked up when he stole that money from my mom, but he was just trying to help. And he's been trying to unfuck things ever since. Sissel laughed. He turned toward the part of the cafe that was still a mess from this morning's intrusion. Those guys that came into the cafe this morning, they were the ones that killed my mom. Not Hershel. They were the ones who forced me to grow up on the streets like garbage. His eyes steeled into a determined glare. If I'm gonna let them take away the last family I've got left. He chuckled softly. And I'm still gonna give Boss an earful for being a fucking twat who's trying to deal with all this on his own. So I've decided I'm gonna find him and sort things out together. We can squabble about it all we want afterwards. A shy look suddenly flushed across his face as he glanced up at me sheepishly. Thanks, John, for sticking with me through all this. I really sound like an idiot right now, but this was the obvious choice from the beginning, wasn't it? I just had a lot of feelings to work through, but thank you for helping me every step of the way. I wouldn't be here without you. I love this sprite for him. My own cheeks felt very warm as Sissel reached out and held my hands in a comforting squeeze. Seeing this renewed determination in Sissel's eyes, it filled me with a sense of hope. I smiled and squeezed back. Of course. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. We decided to wait around at the cafe for Hershel to return home, then ambush him with either some fussy shouting or a hug. Sissel hadn't decided which yet. But as the hours ticked by, our nervousness slowly grew. It was almost past midnight. Sissel muttered that Hershel had to come back soon, or at least give him a call. I still have the twat's spare keys to the cafe, and the spares are in his rusty old truck, he said. So we waited, but Hershel was still nowhere to be found. After pacing around the dining area for what felt like forever, Sissel marched upstairs to search around for hints of where Hershel might have gone. I didn't feel particularly comfortable about rummaging through Hershel's stuff, so I decided to stick around the dining area in case he came back. There's still no sign of him, though. I sighed and fiddled with my camera quietly. Hey, Echo, you there? A soft chill brushed across my fingers. Yeah, I'm here. Is there any chance you can help us track down Hershel? You seem to have a talent for that kind of thing. Sorry, I've grown too weak as of late. It's not really an option in my diminished form. Oh, sorry to hear that. Have you been recovering much? No, not really. Oh, is there anything I can do to help? No need to worry about me. You just keep focusing on your current situation. There was a pause. Speaking of which, there's been something I've been meaning to tell you. I'm running out of time. There's something I have to do while I'm still able. I'll be leaving you for a while. What? You can't leave yet? What am I going to do without you? I let out a quiet chuckle. You'll be fine. Just keep pushing forward. These threads, these bonds that you've woven around you, they're yours. You don't need me anymore. What do you mean? Where are you going? Felt Echo's presence slowly fade without another word. A single fleck of light danced out of my camera lens and flickered away into the night sky. A hushed quiet suddenly fell over the cafe. Was he really gone? I sighed and grasped my camera tightly. Knowing that Echo would no longer answer when I called for him, I suddenly felt a little lost. No. I stood up and shook my head furiously as though warding away those cold thoughts. Can't lose my cool now. Just gotta keep pushing forward, just like he said. I got this. My phone suddenly buzzed and nearly knocked me over in my surprise. I scrambled to turn it on and to see Sissel had messaged me. Hey John, you doing okay down there? Everything's fine, just a little quiet. What about you? Find anything upstairs? Nothing so far. So, about this morning. Sorry I ghosted you. I still feel kind of bad about it. Hey, it's all good. Everyone needs their space sometimes. Just let me know next time so I worry less. Ha. I know. I still want to make it up to you, so, here you go. As promised. Uh-oh. Oh, we're gonna have to get some fruit bats up here? Huh? A notification just popped up. View the image. Even though y'all can't view the image, I'm gonna view the image. Damn! Yeah, I guess I don't have to censor the entire image, but, yeah, Shirakoi's art has improved so goddamn much over the course of this game's development. It's nuts. I tapped the image and a selfie of Sissel expanded onto my screen. A very nude selfie. His face was flushed red as he held his phone camera above his head, revealing himself in all his glory. I could see the cafe's bathroom in the background. He clearly took this mere moments ago. Oh my. Damn, you look nice. I mean, I was fully joking earlier, but I appreciate the treat nonetheless. Heart emoticon. You are now fully forgiven, ooh woo. Well, it felt right to do that now that we're officially boyfriends and all that stuff. I'm definitely saving this for future use. You're never gonna let me live this down, are you? Nah, you're right. Why jerk off to a nude when I got the real thing right there? Squinty cute face emoticon. Also, you still owe me a cute pet name. There was a loud clatter upstairs as though Sissel had knocked something over. God, you're the worst. TTYL, I'm gonna keep searching the place. Sounds good. I'm still allowed to get lewd with you later, right? You didn't actually say no, winky cute face emoticon. There was a long pause. The ellipses of Sissel typing flashed on and off several times as though he was trying to make up his mind. Yeah, sure. Somehow he texted in a whispered voice. I let out a laugh as I stuffed my phone back in my pocket. He's so fun to tease. My chest fluttered with giddy warmth as I grinned at nothing in particular. It was nice being so close to Sissel, especially compared to how things went during the last timeline. The mere memory of it made me shudder apprehensively. I reached down and clutched my camera tightly. I will never take this for granted. I swear it. What the fuck? That was such a weird fucking noise. It sounded like a siren at first, and then it sounded like an altered pitch fart. Like, what the hell was that? A biting chill abruptly filled the cafe, sending shivers down my spine. I stood up, dread crawling nauseatingly across my skin as I glanced around frantically. Damn it, now of all times. Come out, I know you're here. There was a low gurgle from a corner of the dining area. I crouched down and glanced under a table. Mere shreds of this creepy fucking DeviantArt era looking motherfucker.
The dark, wispy head of the remnant was dragging itself across the floor, its maniacal grin spread wide across its face. Maybe it's better this way. I don't remember what the fuck the voice was for this thing, but whatever. I could end it here. Take this accursed dead with me. Sissel will finally be free. What? What? Sis, I wonder, what would you think of me now? I stared at it for several long moments as it continued to gurgle its nonsense. I stood up and shouted upstairs, "Hey, Sissel, where do you keep the broom and dustpan?" Oh, it's behind the counter near the cash register. Thanks. Promptly swept the remnant's blabbering head into the stained dustpan and unceremoniously dunked its contents into a nearby trash can. Its nonsensical ramblings turned into muffled grunts as I tied up the bag, marched outside, and tossed the whole thing into the dumpster. I wasn't going to let it ruin everything, not again. Made sure to slam the dumpster's lid for good measure. Despite my best efforts, a remnant's words stuck in my head as I stepped back into the cafe. Yeah, fucking right. I wonder how this whole new timeline was affecting Hershel. Last time he fell into a pretty dark place. I glanced around. The cafe hasn't burned down this time around, but there was still plenty of room for things to go wrong. Leaving Hershel to stew alone in his own thoughts might have been a bad idea. Hey, John. Sissel poked his head from the stairwell with a nervous frown. I searched upstairs and looks like Boss took out all the money from his bedroom. He showed me a few of his hiding spots where he stores his cash for emergencies. They're all gone. What? I leaned over the counter and stared. The cash register is empty too. Sissel tugged at his ears nervously. You don't think he took all the money to try and pay off those debt collectors, do you? I know for a fact Boss's finances haven't been too hot lately. He definitely doesn't have enough to pay off those... Fuck, I skipped too fast. Pay off people literally threatening his life. He's not doing something stupid like dealing with all this by himself. Again, repeating that because it's something that he does. Panic rose in his voice as he pulled out his phone and tried to call Hershel repeatedly. No answer. Where the fuck is he? I swear to God, if anything happens... Remnant's ramblings echoed in my head as I gritted my teeth nervously. Hershel wasn't exactly in the best state of mind when we left him. And, well, you saw his memories. He doesn't exactly have the healthiest sense of self-worth either. You don't think he's gone to meet those debt collectors? They're going to kill him. Those guys don't seem like the negotiating type, especially knowing what they did to my mom. Sissel and I exchanged anxious looks. We better go find Hershel before he tries anything rash. Thank God we've stuck around this place doing take all for hours. Yeah, I've been trying to do that for the past few hours. We have no idea where he is. How the hell are we supposed to find him before... Sissel let out a frustrated hiss and slumped into a chair, his head buried in his hands. He's the only family I've got left. What if he... I shook my head fiercely. No, we had to stay calm. Think. I racked my brain frantically. Where would Hershel go if he wanted to make a deal with those debt collectors? Was there a meeting place for these shady dealings, or maybe a drop-off point? We needed more information. Information. My eyes snapped open. Da-dum.
We're done.
Morse. Yeah, I knew it was fucking Morse. And that's the story of how I ended up getting a tattoo done by an ex-gang member. It was really nice. Once I got to know him, though, he even gave me his number and told me to call him if I was ever stuck in a bad place. I stood up suddenly. What's the matter? Did you figure something out? Do you remember telling me that story of how you got your tattoo from that ex-gang member? You said his name was Morse, I think? Sissel blinked and stared at me strangely.
I mean, I did get my tattoo from an ex-gang member, but I don't remember telling you about it.
I froze. Oh, did that happen before or after my little rewind? I'm pretty sure I only met Morse during the last timeline, too. Fuck it. We have to stay focused. You still have his number, right? Call him now.
Oh, right.
Sissel fumbled with his phone and contacts frantically. The two of us listened anxiously as the speakers buzzed for what felt like an eternity. Finally, someone picked up.
Speak.
Hello, sir.
Sissel, that ratty little kid that Ginny tried to smuggle into a tattoo parlor. Yeah, that's me. Listen, you said I could call you if I ever ran into trouble.
I pulled the phone from Sissel's grip and leaned into the speaker. Morse, you were friends with Cecilia Bradley back when you were at Garani Academy, right? Good friends, in fact. Morse paused. Without a surprise or consideration, I wasn't sure.
Perhaps. Why do you ask?
You should be familiar with Hershel too, right? He's in a really bad place right now, and we're afraid he might do something rash. He's all mixed up with these dangerous debt collectors threatening his life, and I had to stop and catch my breath. My friend said that your line of work lets you know practically everything that happens in the city, that you're a man of information. Do you know where Hershel might try to meet up with these debt collectors? Please, we need your help to find him before he gets hurt. The phone was quiet for several moments. Finally, Morse spoke.
I suppose I owe Cecilia a favor or two. Fine, I'll lend a hand. For old time's sake.
There was a shuffling sound from the other end of the speaker.
If Cecilia's stupidly self-sacrificing nature runs in the family, I have a decent hunch on where her younger brother may be. He was interrupted by a sharp beep. One moment. Hello? I see. Don't do anything careless. I'll be there shortly.
Well, speak of the devil, it appears one of my connections just ran into the person you're looking for. Really?
Don't get too excited. He's in an incredibly dire situation right now. I'm not sure if your luck is absurdly good or atrociously bad.
Oh, wait, dire situation? Is he okay?
That is yet to be determined.
The older man sighed.
I am texting you a location. It's a frequent meeting place between a certain crime family and their clients. Do you two have access to a vehicle?
Well, I have the spare keys to Boss's old truck.
Excellent. Take the truck and go to the location I sent you. Do not engage or do anything rash. Your goal tonight is to find Hershel and make sure he returns home safely. Understood?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it.
There was a pause. And John, was it? Yes? If you mention my existence to anyone outside of this conversation, I will ensure it will be the last thing you do. Do you understand?
I gulped. Yes, sir. With that, Morse hung up. Sissel and I exchanged stunned looks. After a moment, we both pulled ourselves together and rushed toward the cafe parking lot. Time was of the essence. Also, where the fuck did they get a parking lot? They were, like, in a middle building or whatever. I don't know. There's an alleyway. I don't know. Day 13. Sink.